I'm professional wrestler Madisyn Maxwell, aka Maddie Max, and this is the Fan Views Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View Podcast. Now, if you're like me and you grew up in the Carolinas, you're watching wrestling in the late 2010s, you knew Maddie Max. If you're a fan of WoW Women of Wrestling, you know Sandy Shores. Sandy Shore, I'm going to have to cut that out. Look at me go
Well, it makes
already.
sense. Sandy Shores, like, you know who she
Right?
makes sense, but it is Sandy Shore.
Leave this in because I thought I was
No.
crazy. If you're a fan of WoW Women of Wrestling, you know her as Sandy Shore, but us in the Carolinas, we know her simply as Madisyn. She is the youngest OVW women's champion in the history of that developmental territory. Madisyn, how are you doing? It's so good
You
to see
too.
you
I'm
again.
doing well. That was a nice introduction. I always love to tell people I am the youngest in history, so I'm glad we did that out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna hit it
Good.
again too. That is impressive because OVW is not a slouch of a territory. There's been
Yeah.
serious talent that's moved
I
through there.
always talk about it
But
if someone doesn't know wrestling, and I'm like, you know John Cena? That's where he trained. And they're like, okay, so you know what you're doing.
I love it. Yeah, I mean that was a murderer's row in the early
Yeah.
2000s, of wrestling
Yep.
talent. But I want to start from the beginning. Obviously, we're going to hit your OVW time. We just want to get to know you here at the Fans View Podcast. Where did you grow up? Where did you get this love of wrestling
Well,
from?
I grew up in North Carolina, and I didn't like start out as a wrestling fan. My dad actually is the one who wanted me to see a figure four for some reason. And so my first experience ever was Monday Night Raw, and I remember it clear as day. It was actually filmed on a Thursday, aired on a Monday, and ever since he took me to that event, I fell in love with it. I wanted to do that. Became a huge fan, played all the video games, wrestled my wrestling like my computer chairs, wrestled my friends. Had my entrance song ready to go. I would high five my wall as if they were my fans. I was ready. And then as I got older, it's always something that had been with me. Like, this is what I want to do. I remember writing papers on it in school. And then when I was 17, I was telling myself, it's time to start looking at colleges too. If it's something I really want to do, I need to see if it's legit. Like, is it something I just am into or
Right.
what? And I actually found a wrestling school in Kernersville, North Carolina, which is only 15 minutes from where I grew up. And I just wanted to get into a ring and see how it felt. So I found a training school like 15 minutes from where I grew up. And I went there for the first time ever. I emailed them. My mom and my dad came. So I met Josh Gary, which is my first trainer ever, and who I attribute so much of everything I know to. Even my first suplex ever, and I had the biggest smile on my face. Honestly, me stopping my smile has been probably the hardest thing because I'll be in the match getting my ass kicked, and I'm smiling because I'm so happy to be here. But that's kind of how I started. I just like instantly became a fan when I was 8, and then it stuck with me. Started training when I was 17, and then you can't like legally have a match in North Carolina until you're 18. So my first technical match ever was a month after I turned 18, but I was also in a battle royal a month before I turned 18, but we got away with it. Yeah.
Statute of
Yeah.
limitations is
And
up. We're
literally in
fine.
that video, I'm just smiling the whole time. And it's obviously awful, but it was my first match, technically.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, that love of you have to have a love for
Yeah.
wrestling to do it as long as
I
you've done
know.
it because I mean, you've been in this business a minute now.
It's
You're still a young lady. You're still a young
I
lady.
know, but it's crazy to think how much time has gone by when I meet people now in my life and I tell them what I do, and they say, how long have you been doing that? And I say 10 years. That's insane. And it's
Yeah.
crazy because I do go to shows and I will meet people that are older than me and I'm like their vet.
So you talked about training, beginning your training at least in Kernersville, at
Yes.
USIWF. But you did move on to OVW, which is, like we said, that's no joke. That's serious business there in Louisville,
Yeah.
Kentucky. Louisville,
Louisville.
Kentucky. I'm gonna
It's
get
okay.
canceled.
The Ville.
What? There you go. We're just gonna
Yeah.
go with the Ville. Where? How did you end up? How did you find yourself from Kernersville, North Carolina, and into
When I
OVW?
was a kid, I remember on my computer, I would Google all of my favorite divas at the time. And I Googled where all of them went to train, and every single one said OVW. When I was a kid, though, I didn't know that's because it was the developmental territory. I was like, this is the place to be. And I remember bookmarking wrestling schools before I even went to Josh's school. And so when I was starting to train and then college was coming up, I also played soccer my whole life. So it was also a hard decision of, do I want to play collegiate soccer or do I want to wrestle? And if I do want to wrestle, what school can I go to? Still get the college experience, but still train. And OVW is one I always knew, like this is where everyone went. And I applied to Louisville. And the reason I felt it was the best decision is because the day that I got my acceptance letter, no, I was already accepted to the university, but I got a scholarship to go there too because it was out of state for me. It was expensive.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
day I got a scholarship was the day of WrestleCade, and it was my first WrestleCade ever. And I was like, this is a
Wow.
sign. Like, I need to go to this school. My education's paid for. OVW is 10 minutes down the road. Um, and that's how I ended up there. And I went and I had to do Matt Capitelli's class for a little bit. And Rip Rogers was the advanced trainer at the time. And he said to me, why aren't you in my class? I was like, because it's closed, like it's invite only. And then I started going to his class.
Oh my god. Rip Rogers is kind of known for being a complete psychopath. Do you have any good Rip Rogers
I mean,
stories that
yeah,
you can
I mean,
tell?
I've definitely heard them all. I mean, I've heard him say things too, but he was never super like obnoxious, I guess is the best word to say to me. Like, I don't really have anything that's juicy. I'm sure other people do, but I remember just the training things. I mean, he's beyond smart with when it comes to psychology and everything. He knows what he's talking about, but you also got to get past the fact that he's Rip Rogers sometimes. No, I mean, I have nothing ill or crazy to say about him. Yeah, kind of like helped me develop too. I mean, I came with a character already, but I was still green. I started when I was 17. I went to there. I was like a year and a half in. That's it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's impressive, honestly. We should definitely not undersell the fact that you excelled at a place like
Yeah.
OVW.
Well,
Well, and like we talked about, you're right at about 10 years in now. You know, you've accomplished a lot not
thanks.
working consistently for a three-letter company. We're going to get to your time, doing some work there as well, but you've accomplished a lot. You've won 3 titles. We kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, and I really want to ask you about it now. You were, excuse me, and still to this day, at 19 years old, the youngest OVW women's champion in the history of the
Yeah.
territory. What does an accomplishment like that mean to you?
Honestly, it feels great because I mean, Beth Phoenix held the same title I held, and it's literally the same belt. It's also great because it's such a bragging point for me, but it also, like, everyone who's a wrestler knows what OVW is, so they might not know who I am, but the second I say, oh, I train here, and then this is literally my accolades there, it definitely
Yes,
helps if you don't know how long I've been wrestling, it helps you, I guess respect is a good one. I've been
absolutely.
around, but it was really cool. I mean, I was only there for a year because when I moved back to North Carolina, I feel like that was something very nice that they did for me because I was leaving. Obviously, I had to drop it when I left. I feel like that was kind of like a nod to me, like, thank you, obviously, because we all know. It does make me feel really good. And you go to Wikipedia and I changed it. So it says my name.
She's not a mark for
No.
herself, guys. I would do the same
Yeah.
thing.
And I wish I won at 18 because then no one could ever be younger than me because you can't,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think your record's probably safe for the foreseeable future.
hopefully.
Obviously, like we said, you were at OVW. You came back to North Carolina. You worked the independents here. That's where I first saw you work. What What, if anything, because now you're in Florida, you're in California, you're all over the place. But is there something maybe that you learned in the Carolinas or from George South that maybe you've taken with you everywhere else you've
I
went?
honestly think, well, one, my connections have helped me a lot. Everything that I have is because of North Carolina. I've met every single connection is somehow comes from there. But I will say that I think my actual character development is what I got the most out of my time in the Carolinas. Obviously, I started off, we all do the basic bitch gimmick, but like, what more can we do? And I'll never forget, Josh told me that your character is you times 10. So find a part of you and just times it by 10, and that is the best kind of character. I have definitely found a part of myself that I have magnified, plus, added on some jeweled it up a little bit. So
Absolutely.
I honestly think like my character is what I got from there. I how to talk the most, especially like my time at Queens of Combat. That's when I got
So glad you brought this up. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna
I'm
say that's
sorry.
when I got the most comfortable. Like I know exactly who I am. I don't need to go over my promo. I can go out there. You can say whatever you want to me, and because I know Maddie Max so well, I can say anything back. Like I was ready for it all, and I got that from Queens. Obviously, it was a great honor that they trusted me so much with the microphone. But I feel like that is definitely what I've gotten the most is like who Maddie Max is because of all the trust and all the people that I've met in North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag it in the
Yeah,
description too, guys. Guys, don't look at this face and not see a dastardly heel, because some of the things that Maddie Max said were out
yeah.
of
My dad loves
pocket.
me.
In the description, I'm gonna link it. There was a. I'm so glad you brought up Queens
Yeah,
of Combat. There was a tag match between Maddie Max and Renee Michelle versus Taylor Hendricks and
I
Chelsea
know.
Green, our U.S.
It's
champion.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
wow, that mic work before the match. Wow.
And I'm technically still the champion there, so I'm like the longest reigning in history.
Hey,
Thank you,
we'll take it.
COVID.
Let's add that one. You are the queen of segues, because COVID is exactly where I was going to next. For looking at your cage match, numbers and career and stuff. You said you broke in 2016. You were very, very active. I think
Yeah,
you had like 2 dozen matches minimum for the first maybe 3 years of your career, 4 years of your career. Then, of course, COVID happens. Coming out of COVID, I noticed you really
I
weren't
know.
as active, and I think maybe in 2022 you didn't have a match at all. Is that right?
No, because when I started WoW in 2022, so Maddie Max didn't have a match probably.
Yeah. Well, the question I was gonna ask you is what led to that? Was it a break from the business? Was it just COVID protocols?
I
What happened?
honestly, I was so comfortable. Like Queens of Combat was my jam. Every show I was at, I felt like I was having buzz too. At the time. And then COVID happened, everything shut down. And with that, obviously, wrestling shut down. And I also just graduated college at the same time. So I graduated May of 2020, and COVID was March 2020. So without wrestling happening actively, I'm like, great, gotta get a job. So I started like a normal person job doing mortgages. I still have a license though, so if anyone needs something. But I feel like, honestly, at that time too, I was 22 years old. So like I was on WWE already. I had been TNA. They knew me. They said I had the best promo they'd ever seen. Like I think I was so comfortable with Queens too. Like I was known there. And then obviously COVID shut down, got a job. And then because of my time at OVW too, I met great people. Jessie Bell and Amazing Maria are two of the I call them my wrestling moms, two of the best people I've ever met. And they were constantly pitching me, especially Jessie, to David and to Selena at WoW. That's how WoW happened. They reached out to me and they're like, do you want to come to LA in a week? And I was like, yep, sure do. And I think that really reignited my love for wrestling because when I was out without it for so long, I was like, is this life? Like, gonna have a normal job? And so once that happened, I think it just reignited how much I was like, damn, I am pretty good at this. Yeah.
So you talked about you've done some extra work for the WWE. You floated around TNA. Obviously, you've been backstage at these big
Yeah,
companies. I would say maybe your most prolific match that you've had with a three-letter company was maybe your
I do
AEW
too.
Dark
They
match
actually gave
with
me,
Hikaru
yeah, I
Shida.
didn't have to be squashed.
Right, exactly. It was an actual
Yeah,
match, and even though maybe technically you were enhancement talent,
paid.
it wasn't a Braun Strowman
No.
squash match. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with
Yeah, I
AEW?
got this DM from Captain Sean, and it was like, "Do you still wrestle?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I can." And he's like, "Do you want to come?" And it was actually perfect because it was in Charlotte, which so many fans of Queens were there that
Yes.
when I went out, people were chanting Maddie, and I was like, "That's right, that's right." It was a great experience. Obviously, I have so many people that I know that work there. Diamante's there right now. I think Kira's still there. Britt Baker's there, and I remember wrestling not her, but being on the same show with her when I was 18, Pennsylvania. And she's like their freaking superstar beyond. So there were a lot of people.
Yes.
Oh, Rebel was there. Rebel's the one who dropped the title to me at OVW. So I had a lot of people that I knew. It was really fun to have that reunion, but also being able to be on the product and then use it and have like an actual graphic that AEW. And I'll never forget because afterwards, Dustin told me, and I'll take this, and this is my own fault because I really should have pushed them after this. He told me that I did great and I was like a natural superstar. And I'm thinking, that's right, they're giving me a contract. Nope. But that's my
Never
fault. Like
came.
and looking back on my career, there were a lot of times like when I was on Raw and they're telling me like tomorrow we're gonna talk. And I'm like, great, they're giving me a contract or I'm getting a tryout. I needed to follow through on so many things, and I just assumed that they were going to happen. So that's definitely my
Yeah.
like fatal flaw in the business. Looking back, is I should have pushed. Like the people that push are the ones that are there. Yeah. So if you guys are watching this, just remember what you told me, and I can still sign.
I wish we would have saw you last weekend. They were at the Bojangles
Really?
Coliseum. Yeah, yeah, they were in Charlotte last
Circle
weekend.
moment.
I'm telling you, now that you said that, I was like, oh. And funny story, it's my first ever wrestling show that I covered as a member of the media. So now me and you can share
Yeah.
Charlotte
Oh, that's
together.
so fun.
So, like I've said, you seem to like have lightened your schedule a little bit. You did some work with WWE with AEW. Then the WoW opportunity
Yeah.
comes along. And can you just elaborate a little bit more on what WoW is and how you ended up
So
there?
stands for Women of Wrestling, so it's an all women show. It's been around. I mean, David's created Glow. So the concept of WoW has been around forever and they rebranded. So we're technically only on season 3 of WoW, but it's because it's been rebranded. But there's years and years and years of history there. And it came around, honestly, the first time I ever heard of it was at WrestleCade and they did a collaboration and it was like Lana Starr, Amber O'Neal, Jesse was there, and Jesse's about to go out state or go out and she grabs me and looks at Selena and goes, "This girl's young, she's really good, she's really talented, bring her." Goes out and I was like, "Nice to meet you." Again, assuming this great, they're just gonna bring me on. So it took
Yeah.
years after that. My friend Kristen, which is Callie Young, she went before I did. And we were gonna they had this idea for this tag team and then COVID happened too. So that kind of stopped their their ideas at that point. And I had gone and trained with them before I even got signed in 20, oh God, 18, I think. I remember flying myself to LA to train there. And thank God
Wow.
they let me because Jesse was there too, so that helped. And Amber O'Neal. But then it was always like David would call me and be like, "Hey, we have this like idea." But they always had this idea of me and Kristen being this tag team, and it just never worked out for us both to be able to go. And then I think eventually they were like, "Can you just come?" And then that's how I went out there. And they had this idea already of a character, like this spring break character. They had Kristen, which was Callie Ray out there, a surfer character. I was gonna be like her spring break bestie. So without her, they brought me on a spring break and they had another girl come out as a spring breaker and put us together as like this whole concept. So I always say like they had an idea, I just got like I filled the role. Like I got casted essentially for it. And they just reached out
Yeah.
and I filmed for a week in LA. I remember too, because I just started a new job, like a desk job. And I didn't tell them I was going to California. I just said, "Can I work remote next week?" And I woke up at what time? 5 a.m. in California and having my
Oof.
laptop like and makeup chairs working just so they didn't know. I work for a very strict company though, so I was scared. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, you're talking about like you guys had the
Yeah.
beach bum kind of gimmick. WoW is very heavy on
Yes.
gimmicks. It's very
You live it, breathe it.
very yeah, it's very like new generation WWF in
Yeah.
my opinion, where it's like everybody has an
Yeah.
occupation.
Yeah, like we have like Jungle Girl and she's like barefoot, and like her music's very jungly and yeah. So they're very, very character based, very heavy on gimmicks,
Yeah,
which is fun. Like I'm
not that that's a bad thing. Yeah, that's fun. Wrestling's
Yeah,
supposed
and
to
I
be
have like
fun,
these it's just so funny because it's complete opposite of the character that I created and the character that I am.
right?
And like I'll come out with neon green and flyaway pants and or breakaway pants, whatever they're called, and beach balls, and I'm the good guy. That's the hard part.
Oh my, yeah, you're a dastardly heel at heart. We all know you,
That's why Sandy was so hard to become because I
right?
don't know her like I knew Maddie Max, and so I've really had to create like who is she? What parts of me does she actually have? But I will say the more that I've gotten more comfortable as her, I see myself like doing the things that I would do as Maddie Max, but just in a different way. So I'll be in a match, be like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'd say that as Maddie Max, but it's because I just like got hit. Like, what the heck? And I think I play like the more like beachy kind of thing versus I'm gonna sue you kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, what would you say? Obviously, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what's the biggest difference from inside the ring, maybe, when you're performing? Because WoW is studio
Yeah,
wrestling, as opposed to, you're in Hickory, North
yeah,
Carolina, with Queens of Combat, with 100, and no disrespect, but 100 half-drunk rednecks
yeah.
chirping at you. What's that like? What's that difference? Kind of like from your
And
perspective.
well, I think the thing with the audiences that in Hickory, North Carolina, is those are true wrestling audiences. I think you can have a lot more fun with them versus like, wow, yes, those are wrestling fans as well, but we film X amount of matches at a time. And I mean, they get tired, which is fine. Their times are so, it's like, it's TV basically, but we also have, like, I know WU and they're live. You do have, like, your match is 5 minutes. Don't go over because we only have 3 hours on the on this program. Whereas, wow, it's like your match is 4 minutes. Don't go over because this episode's only 60 minutes long. But if you botch your suplex, redo it and it will edit it. So your match is still 4 minutes.
Yes.
I've never had to do that, thank God. But that is the difference. It's like it is like TV magic. And
Yeah.
then your character stuff, obviously you are already a huge, huge character, but they do so much time creating your character backstage and like with the entrances and things like that. When you're in the ring, you do a lot less character work, I would think, than having to entertain people that have never seen you before and it's a live audience. I think that's like the biggest difference is you can chirp with this person and say stuff.
I'm gonna put you on the I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Do you have a favorite person to work with across the ring right now in WoW?
Oh my gosh. So all my matches have been with so many different people. Oh my gosh. I've wrestled Fury, which is Harlow on the Indies, multiple times at WoW and multiple times like throughout my career. So that's always someone super fun to work with just because I know her, she knows me, I trust her, she trusts me. We
Right.
don't have to say, I'm gonna give you this, and then you're gonna like I know what you do, you know what I do. Plus, like if anything happens during, I know you got me, I got you. So I feel like she's probably like one I would say I like to work with just because we have that trust built. As her, like as
Absolutely.
my favorite, like the most fun. I don't know, it's so hard because now I'm the good guy. Like if I was the bad guy, it'd be so much easier. Like that person's so fun to work with. Like their character is so fun. I don't know. I like all of them, I guess. I like Noelle a lot, which is Gambino. We've only worked one time
Hmm.
together, but I also can run a lot of ideas off her. Oh, I love DK. And Gigi. are probably my favorite people to work with. They're really good for one. They have ideas too, and as human beings, I love them. So those are probably my favorites, actually.
We'll
Yeah.
take that. We'll definitely take that. So I guess the next logical question has to be, other than the Sandy Shore heel turn that we're all going to be hoping for, John Cena style, what's in store, for Madisyn in 2025? What kind of concrete, tangible goals have you set
Well,
for
I
yourself?
actually made my 2025 goals, and it says WWE try in there. I would do AEW too. I do TNA. I'm not, solidified on one. So last year, I was only doing WoW, and I was like, this is fun. Like, obviously, this is bigger than life. We go out here, hair, makeup, everything like that. But when we did Vegas, I don't even know if I can say that. I think I can. Like, we promoted it. When we did Vegas in September, and
Yeah, everybody talked
yeah,
about
okay,
Vegas.
good.
You're good.
That was a true audience. That was in the middle of the street. Anybody could come. It wasn't people that, we put there. That reignited me so much. I was like, I love this shit so much. I love these audiences. I love everything about this. I also think at that point, that was the most recent match I had at Sandy. So I knew her way more too, like how to be her. That was true crowd interaction, things like that. That I was like, okay, I miss the effing indies so much.
Yes.
So after that, I came out and I went straight to NWA. Thank God I had worked there before because I was able to be like, I know you guys. Can I work with you again?
Yeah,
So I did NWA in October, and then I've just been trying to do indies more and more. So I have a show in 2 weeks as Maddie Max. I'm so excited to be her again for the first time in a long time at a real audience. I'm
that is
so
so great.
excited, and then I'm just back in love with indies and wrestling. And so my goals of this year is just to wrestle as much as I can anywhere that will take me. Any promotion that sees this, I have DM people. Check your DMs. I've sent emails. Check your emails. I've commented on posts. Check your comments.
I
Yeah.
love this. I'm getting excited. You're getting me riled up. Let's do
Yeah.
this. So, because that's my next question. Do you think we start to see like the Road Warrior Maddie Max come
Oof.
back like she used to be when she first broke in, or are you kind of have you fulfilled your are you filling your dates up with more WoW stuff, as opposed to Maddie
No,
Max maybe?
Maddie Max. Obviously, I have an obligation to WoW when we film. I'm there as Sandy, but this year, I definitely want to be strategic, like where I'm going, but I want to do as much as possible when I can. Road Warrior, sure. I need a hotel though.
I love that.
Yeah, I live in Florida though. There's so many in Florida. It's just getting my foot in the door. That's what I'm saying. Check your DMs, people.
Get at her,
Yeah,
promoters. What are we doing?
CCW. Try to get there.
So, speaking of dates and the Road Warrior Maddie Max, although Maddie won't be there, come February 15th, you've got a match in Augusta,
Yes.
Georgia for a brand new company. This is their first show, Next Level Championship Wrestling. It's actually going to be a WoW
No.
showcase against Penelope Pink. How excited are you to bring WoW wrestling to the people in Augusta,
I'm
Georgia?
excited. Obviously, I love what I do, but beyond that, bringing Sandy to an audience that like you don't get to watch WoW live unless you live in LA or you travel there. So I'm so excited to actually bring it to a live audience and kind of get honest feedback on Sandy. Is this a likable character? Or are you guys cheering because you're being told to? How was she received, or what can I do better as her so that obviously it can portray? But I'm super excited to bring Sandy Shore to Georgia. It makes sense. She's a spring breaker. We're close to Myrtle Beach.
There you go. There you go. We're getting closer to
Yeah,
Savannah. Savannah
yeah.
too.
Tybee Island.
No, it's gonna. There you go. See, that's a local there. She knows what's
Spent
up.
beach weekend there in college.
I'm so excited for you to be there. I know everybody at Next Level Championship Wrestling's
So
excited to have you
excited.
guys. So before I get serious on you, it's Rumble
Yep.
season. You're a
Oh,
fan
and
at
last year
heart.
too.
You got to pick for the Rumble. You got a fan. You got to pick for the
Okay,
Rumble
so
this year.
last year, my brother and I went to, because it was in Florida, we went to the actual Rumble. And I love wrestling all around, but the girls especially because some of my friends are there, which is just really cool. And freaking Jordan popped up. I've known Jordan since I was 18 years old too, and I'm like, wow, like you are on a WWE pay-per-view right now. That's insane. So I don't even
Yeah,
know. I would guess like if I had a choice, like I love Chelsea, and I've known her for so many years too. And I think she's funny and killing it right now. So I guess I'd pick her. But you never know who's gonna pop.
love
Like
that.
who knows who they're bringing in?
True.
Like yeah,
This is true. We could see Jordan. Hey, we could see Maddie Max in the
probably
Rumble.
not. But yeah,
We're just gonna keep it
yeah, we're
alive
just speaking
anyway.
into existence.
Hey, I'm gonna do it. We're willing this into number 30,
Yeah,
Maddie
number
Max. Let's
31
do this,
actually.
folks.
It's super surprise.
So here's where I'm gonna take a turn on you, and I'm gonna get serious. I love to ask this question because it really gives people an insight into who you are outside
Okay.
of the ring. The first being a little less
Okay.
serious. What do you enjoy doing when you're not in the ring? When you're not Sandy Shore? When you're not Maddie Max? What's Madisyn like to do in her free
Well, I
time?
live at the beach for a reason.
So Sandy Shore.
Yes. But I've always loved the ocean forever. Anytime I like just being by water, so I guess that's my answer. I go on a lot of walks outside. I have alligators everywhere here, which is one of my favorite animals, so I love that. I just started cooking. Well, that sounds bad. I always cooked, but I took an actual like interest in it now. I also am in book club. I'm in Bible study. Like I'm a busy person in my real life.
Let's go.
So it just depends on the day. Yeah, I would say like anything that has to do with water, anything that has to do outside. I'm not hiking, let me clarify that. I'm not going on a mountain, but like I'll go for a walk near the water.
So, okay, and the next question I would have for you, and this does not have to be wrestling specific. It can be if you want it to, but it doesn't have to be. What's a piece of advice? And to ask you what your favorite piece of advice is kind of goofy, but do you have a piece of advice that like has really resonated with you and has stuck with you? Any advice for a little girl that might be thinking about pursuing a career in professional wrestling?
I would say do it. And you never know until you try. So like for me, I didn't it was always my dream, but I'd never been in a ring before. What if I got in there and I took my first suplex? I was like, I hate this. So I would say if you want to try it, definitely try it. If it's not wrestling either, like whatever your dream is, do it. As I'm getting older, we have one life, which I know I've always had one life, but the older you get, the more you're like, okay, like this is
Yeah,
legit.
starts
Yeah,
to get real.
it does get real. So, whatever it
Yeah.
is, if it's wrestling, do it. I would say find a school, but also because I started so young, it's male dominated. Obviously, there's been strides for women in the industry within the last 10 years, but I started super young. As a woman, as a girl, I guess I was literally 17. And so the biggest advice for a girl probably is like you're gonna get a lot of stuff, or people are gonna assume either you're not very good or they're gonna assume you're only here because you flirted with somebody or whatever. And all you gotta do is show them. Just do it. And that's my biggest advice is like just you're gonna have to prove people wrong all the time, and that is what it is. You're gonna be undermined a lot, and that's just the nature of it. So just be the best you can be and stay true to yourself the whole time. Yeah. Honestly, I would say looking back on it is I was always taught from Josh, like very early on, like helping any way you can. So putting the ring, like you have to pay your dues, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Um, it doesn't matter how long you've been in it. If I'm going to a promotion now that I've never been at, I do whatever you can, like to help them out. Pay your dues the best you can. Here's a good piece of advice: go to training. This is a professional sport, and there's a reason that training's 4 hours at a time. It's because there's a lot to know. So probably the biggest advice that I've gotten is go to training. And yeah. Also, here's a good piece of advice. Sorry, these are all coming to me now.
Oh no, bring them on.
Just because someone says they can do a move doesn't mean they can. So if you ever have hesitations about anything, it's okay to ask. Yeah.
There you go. We don't want any
No.
quadriplegics out here.
No, and you don't want it to look shitty when you're out there. Everyone knows this is
That's
fake. Your job
absolutely
is to
true.
make it look real.
Look, you're just advice
Yeah.
nuggets. You're just out here.
Maybe I
I
should be
love it.
training
I mean,
instead of wrestling.
I'm telling you what, I can't think of a better way to end this. Like I said, Madisyn, I'm so excited we got to reconnect. We're gonna put out some more
Yeah,
content here in a couple weeks at Next Level Championship
Sandy
Wrestling.
Shore.
And until then, folks, make sure to check Madisyn out. If you're a promoter, get her on your show. I love that. That's solid advice. So, at this point in your life, obviously you're still a very
Thanks.
young woman, but at this point in your life and your career, what does the term success mean to you?
So I have always said like I want to be a WWE superstar since I was 8 years old. I was like, that's what I want to do. And now that there are many options, like I could go TNA route, I could go AEW route, I could go WWE route. Whatever's in store for me at this point is obviously in God's hands. But obviously, I can do what I can to push it that way. But I think if I never make it to that level, I could still feel successful. Like when I look back on it, sometimes I take it for granted, or I'm just a little bit more like, oh, I wish I was here, here, here. Looking back, I've traveled around the country on other people's dimes. I've had things paid for. I've been on Raw. I've been on AEW. I've been at OVW. I've been so many places, and I've done what I said I want to do when I was a kid. So even if I never become, TNA Knockout, WWE Superstar, AEW, I don't even know what they called them, AEW person.
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
if I never see one of those contracts, I can at least know that I did what I always wanted to do. I got to experience something. I got to chase my dream. A lot of people don't get to say that at all. So I think for me, I can feel success already for what I've done, but there's always the next level. So I think at this point, that would be my goal. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not gonna I'd be upset, I'm sure, but I'm not gonna think that my whole career was like a waste or anything like that, or that I should have just picked a normal job and stuck with it or something like that. Like, I don't have any regrets. My regrets that I have aren't from pursuing wrestling, it's from not pursuing it enough, probably, and really pushing.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Madisyn, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. You were so wonderful to talk
Thanks.
to. Where can where can people get a hold of you if they want to, reach out to you on
Yeah.
social media or promoters? Where can
Yeah.
promoters get a hold of
Promoters
you?
hit me up. So I had an Instagram when I was in college. I had a private Instagram for my stuff and then a wrestling Instagram because I didn't want my friends that are super young to have to deal with what I deal with. But I have combined it into one. So the only active Instagram I use for Madisyn is on like at Madisyn Maxwell. I have a Sandy Shore one as well. It's wow underscore Sandy Shore, but those are the only active ones I use. And then I have an email. If anyone wants to email me, it's just bookmadison at gmail.com. But
Get at
yeah,
her
and I spell
promoters.
Madisyn really cool, so you know it's me.
All right.
Um,
I can't put this girl over anymore, even if she wasn't looking at me right now.
and it's not just talk. I'm
But
really
until
good.
next, she can talk, she can work, she's pretty. Let's do this. What are
Yeah,
we
and I
waiting
got cool
for?
gear.
Let's sell some tickets and cool gear. God, let's sell
Yeah.
some tickets, guys. But until next time, thank you guys so much. Thank you
Thank
again,
you.
Madisyn. We'll see you guys next time on the Fans View podcast.
Thanks.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.